And now the next round.
Ashley's no. Sorry.
No, I think we're now on to Mr. Figueroa and Greg, your question.
Thank you. I was going to ask a general question about crime and punishment, but I'm going to change my question a little because I think it's a crime that the major networks and our political parties rig our elections to keep you guys out of Parliament, and I think they should be punished for it. And with that in mind, I'd like to ask you if on Election Day it was a tie between the Liberals and the Alliance, and you elected one member of Parliament, who would you support, and what would be the price you would make them pay in order to be the government?
Well, a scenario from hell, if you really must know. Well, I think that we would certainly, let me just say first of all that I think that Parliament would be an incredibly transformed place if there was even one communist there to stand up and fight for working class interests. Well, I don't know that we would be interested in supporting either of these parties. They're, even though there are differences between them, they both represent fundamentally the interests of big business. If anything, we would be inclined to move to a new election, and the price would be opening up the electoral process itself and bringing about some fundamental changes which reflect the true diversity of the views of the Canadian people.
Thank you very much. And now we move to Dr. Russo, Green Party.
Well, I think this would be a very difficult decision. I think the only solution would be that there would have to be another election. I don't think that I don't think it would be wise to have to choose between two evils. There was a beautiful cartoon in the Globe and Mail, which was the arch, and people having to wander through the archway of two evils. I think that what might be an interesting solution is to have that one seat occupied by various other parties that didn't get elected, just to see how the vote would swing. But I think that that's where we should go to the court system, and perhaps the court case that we're working on with the two law professors on how the first past the post system actually violates the Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Maybe that's what we should do, and then have an immediate referendum calling for a complete and fundamental overhauling of the electoral system. And I think that would be the best way of dealing with it, rather than having to make that very difficult, solemn decision.
Paul Hellyer, how are you going to deal with the Vezina scenario?
Well, I agree it would be a choice of evils, but if either party would abrogate the free trade agreement and NAFTA and substitute genuine trade agreements in their place, because we can compete in trade, as you know, whereas we cannot compete in investment. And if they would take off the table of the World Trade Organization all the things they have now put there, including healthcare, education, intellectual property, and agriculture, and take back our sovereignty and give the people back their power to make decisions and have some control over their own destiny. If anyone would do all of that, then we'd be in a position to have lunch and talk about it.
Mr. St. Maurice.
I think you've just outlined the ideal scenario for the Marijuana Party, and you've also illustrated how one seat can make such a big difference in Canadian politics. Certainly, if we held that seat, we would be staunch holdouts until we got the rest of the House of Commons to enact legislation legalizing marijuana. At that point, as we've always promised, we would resign, and I guarantee that would be the most exciting by-election you've ever seen in Canada in your life.
Sandra Smith, maybe you'd prefer if I did skip over you this time.
Well, I think first of all, there's no, the danger in Canada isn't of them coming that close at this time. I think the Canadian representative democracy as it exists to date very much needs to reestablish the two-party system. And I don't think that this is being done because of the fact that none of the parties actually at this time have a national base. And I think the party system itself is in very deep crisis, and the situation is demanding the empowerment of Canadians. So I really, I'm not too enthusiastic about going into that scenario. because I've developed a very big disliking to this issue of these choices that we're asked to choose between evils.
Thank you very much, Sandra. Mr. Deans?
The Natural Law Party would support both parties because natural law supports all of us and nourishes all of us. And the Natural Law Party supports the highest aspirations of all political parties. We would sit down with the Alliance and the Liberals and say, look, this dead heat indicates that Canadian collective consciousness is fragmented. What we have to do is heal the collective consciousness by creating coherence. And the only scientifically proven way of creating coherence is to have a group of 10,000 yogic flyers who would be part of the military and would be a prevention wing to create coherence in collective consciousness. And then we would ask them to implement Vedic health to prevent disease, Vedic rehabilitation to prevent crime, and Vedic education to develop the full creative potential of every Canadian.
Thank you very much, Mr. Deans. We're now leaving CBC News World. You can continue to watch this on the democracychannel.net, and the whole program will be rebroadcast on CPAC Tuesday at 10 p.m.